Welcome to Moon Mind Sanctuary. In this video, we enter one of the most profound teachings ever preserved in the ancient Buddhist texts, an understanding of human suffering so exact, so compassionate, that it resembles the work of a master physician. Just as a doctor studies an illness by identifying its symptoms, tracing its source, and prescribing a cure, the Buddha approached suffering with the same remarkable precision. More than 2,500 years ago, he organized this timeless wisdom into essential truths. The first reveals what is truly happening when life feels heavy, incomplete, or painful. The second uncovers the hidden cause beneath that pain. The third offers something extraordinary, the assurance that suffering's root can come to an end. And the fourth lays out a practical path, 8 living disciplines, that can be cultivated slowly, like a farmer tending fertile soil season after season. In this journey, we will walk through these 4 truths not as abstract philosophy, but through the lives of 6 human beings whose stories still breathe through the oldest Buddhist texts. You will meet a grieving mother whose loss shattered the structure of her mind. A king abandoned in darkness who discovered an inner freedom untouched by cruelty. A farmer who recognized enlightenment in the language of the earth he had tilled all his life. And a wandering seeker who spent years walking toward a truth he could not yet name, until one quiet evening in a potter's house changed everything. By the end of this video, these 4 truths will no longer feel distant or ancient. They will become something intimate, practical, and deeply personal, a way of understanding the exact shape of suffering in your own life, beginning from where you are right now. So wherever you are, allow yourself to settle. There is no rush here. No urgency. This teaching has waited patiently for centuries. It can wait a little longer for you to receive it slowly. Seeing suffering clearly. The first truth begins with a woman who did not realize she had become lost. Her name was Vasithi, and her story survives in the earliest recorded collection of Buddhist verses written by women. Her words are among the most piercing in the entire Pali Canon because they do not turn away from pain. They look directly at it. Before grief entered her life, there was an ordinary household. Morning began with familiar sounds. Grain being ground before sunrise. Water carried in clay pots. The quiet rhythm of tasks repeated so often they had become the shape of life itself. There were children. The warmth of their sleeping bodies. The softness of a small arm falling limp in deep sleep. The way a mother's hands learn to lift, hold, and soothe without needing thought. Her life was built from these intimate repetitions. Years passed this way. Her children grew from being carried to walking beside her. The sounds of the house changed with their voices. Meals changed with their appetites. Evenings deepened as simple needs became conversations. A home with children is a living thing. It rearranges itself around their becoming. And without even noticing, the mother at its center slowly builds her inner world around their presence. Then the unthinkable happened. One child died. Then another. Then the youngest. The ancient verses do not dwell on how each child died. Instead, they reveal what those losses did inside her. The structure of her mind collapsed. The center that had organized her days, her movements, and her identity was suddenly gone. And so she wandered. Through roads. Across fields. Between villages. For days, then weeks. Not truly knowing where she was going. She did not feel hunger. She barely felt cold. She no longer noticed her clothing or the reactions of those around her. Some feared her. Some mocked her. But grief had become larger than the ordinary world. Her mind was still doing what it had been trained to do. Searching. Reaching. Looking for the lives it had once been built to protect. This is what the Buddha understood with extraordinary clarity. Sometimes suffering is not madness. Sometimes it is simply a mind continuing to search for what no longer exists. At last, her wandering brought her near the place where the Buddha was teaching. The meeting was quiet. No spectacle. No dramatic miracle. Only a woman who had been lost in grief and a teacher who did not look away. Where others had stepped aside from her suffering, the Buddha remained still. He met her pain with complete attention. And something remarkable happened. She stopped. After weeks of endless movement, she sat down. Because for the first time, the searching had encountered something that did not flee. He did not offer false comfort. He did not tell her everything happens for a reason. He did not explain away the pain. Instead, he gave her something deeper. Truthful clarity. He told her that everything born from conditions must change when those conditions change. Her children had arisen through causes. And through causes, they had passed. Their coming was real. Their leaving was real. Both belong to the same law of existence. This is the heart of impermanence. Not as comfort. Not as cold philosophy. But as accuracy. And in Buddhism, accurate seeing is one of the highest forms of compassion. Because confusion is often heavier than pain itself. The grief remained. But the endless searching began to soften. What changed was not the loss. What changed was the mind's resistance to the reality of loss. And this is the first truth. Suffering is real. Not because life is wrong. But because everything conditioned is subject to change. Pain. Loss. Restlessness. The quiet ache that tells us something never stays. To feel this is not failure. It is evidence that you are seeing life as it truly is. The three faces of suffering. The Buddha described suffering in three forms. Once you hear them, you begin to notice them everywhere. The first is obvious. Grief, illness, heartbreak, endings. The direct pain of life. The second exists even inside beautiful moments. You may sit with someone you love and suddenly feel the bittersweet awareness that this exact moment will never return. Joy and impermanence coexist. The third is subtler. It is the low hum of incompleteness. The sense that even when life seems fine, something still feels slightly unfinished. A quiet restlessness. A mind scanning for the next thing. The next answer. The next relief. This is the will turning beneath ordinary life. And most people spend years trying to outrun it. Through busyness. Through distractions. Through noise. But the first truth asks something gentler. See it clearly. Name what is actually here. This is grief. This is impermanence. This is the mind's subtle hunger for completion. The moment suffering is seen clearly, it becomes workable. And what is workable can be transformed. The second truth, the cause of suffering, craving/thirst. The first truth teaches us to look directly at suffering. Not to escape it. Not to rename it. Not to cover it with comforting stories. Simply to see it as it is. But once suffering is seen clearly, a deeper question naturally follows. What gives suffering its momentum? What keeps pain alive long after the event itself has passed? What turns a simple moment of discomfort into days, months, or even years of inner struggle? This is where the Buddha's teaching moves beneath the surface. The second truth does not focus on the pain itself. It investigates the mechanism that keeps pain repeating. The ancient word often translated as craving is better understood as thirst. Not ordinary desire. Not the healthy movement toward what nourishes life. But a deeper psychological thirst.
The restless force in the mind that says, more. More pleasure. More certainty. More control. More reassurance. Or just as often. Anything but this. Anything but discomfort. Anything but uncertainty. Anything but loss. This thirst pulls the mind forward toward what it wants and pushes it away from what it fears. And in that constant movement, suffering renews itself. The wound may have begun outside us. But craving keeps reopening it from within. The story of Magandia. When desire mistakes itself for fulfillment. One of the clearest illustrations of this truth comes through the story of Magandia, a respected Brahmin whose life was shaped by pride, beauty, and attachment. He had a daughter whose beauty was said to be unmatched. Many families had sought her hand in marriage. Many offers had come. And each one he had refused. Not out of cruelty, but from conviction. He believed someone truly worthy had not yet appeared. So he waited. Years of waiting. Years of holding a vision in his mind of the perfect person who would finally complete what he believed her beauty deserved. Then one day, while walking outside the town, he saw the Buddha seated quietly near the roadside. There was something in the stillness of his presence that struck Magandia immediately. A completeness. A dignity untouched by ambition. A peace that did not lean on the world for support. In that moment, Magandia became convinced. This is the one. He hurried home, gathered his wife and daughter, and returned with genuine joy. To him, this was the fulfillment of years of waiting. The moment the mind says, "At last, what I hoped for has arrived." With full sincerity, he offered his daughter in marriage. But the Buddha did something unexpected. He did not respond from desire. He did not react from attraction. He simply looked deeply into the nature of what was happening. Not the daughter. Not the offer. But the mind behind the offering.